Hi everyone, and welcome back to Meta-morph. This video will be part 2 of the Genestealer cult stratagem overview. In this video I'll go over the cult-specific stratagems found in the Genestealer cult codex, as well as the stratagems from the Greater Good Psychic Awakening book. And if you haven't seen part 1 of this series yet, I suggest you check it out. Okay, so let's get into it. First out, we have a plan, Generations in the Making, for 3 command points. Now this is for the Cult of the Formed Emperor. So you use this stratagem just after your opponent has spent command points to use a stratagem, but before the effects of that stratagem are resolved. Roll d6. On a 1, your opponent's stratagem is resolved as normal. On a 2 to 5, your opponent's command points are refunded, but the stratagem that they were using is not resolved and cannot be attempted again this phase. On a 6, the stratagem that they were attempting to use is not resolved, cannot be attempted again this phase, and the command points spent are lost. This stratagem cannot be used if there are no Cult of the Formed Emperor units on the battlefield, and cannot be used to affect stratagems used before the battle or during deployment. Also, they FAQ this, so you can only use this stratagem once per game. So, overall, it's a very useful stratagem. I think it's a bit boring to just deny someone stratagem, but hey. It's also very expensive. 3 command points and once per game, yeah. So if you want to use this, it's really more for like denying key stratagems that will hurt you. Or will like really like interrupt the opponent's strategy. Like some key stratagems like Aspect Scan that will kill units, Tanglefoot that will stop your charges, Overwatch which could just kill your entire squad for you. Like, yeah. So you have to use that at the right moment. But it also works a bit as a threat to your opponent, like playing a bit of a mental game. Like the opponent knows that you have this tool and will be a bit more careful because they never know when you're going to use it. And since you only really need 1 Cult of the Formed Emperor unit on the table to use it, you could just throw 1 unit in a mixed detachment and like have it as like a extra part of your normal strategy. But yeah, I don't really like mixed detachments, but if you do, feel free to use it. Okay, moving on. Shielding Efficiency, 2 command points. This is for the Hive Cult. Use this stratagem after a Hive Cult unit from your army has attacked an enemy unit in the shooting phase and the attack resulted in the enemy unit losing 1 or more wounds. Add 1 to hit rolls for attack made by other friendly Hive Cult units that target the same enemy unit this phase. So, this, I mean, it's sort of useful. You kind of want like big target, like a big tank or something, or like a large unit of infantry for this to really be worth 2 command points. And I consider it, I mean, we don't have that much firepower, so we kind of want to focus it already. And it's way easier to get +1 to hit with the Jackal Alphas. And since you can't stack like the modifiers anymore, really, you can only get a max of +1. I don't think that it's like super useful, this, but I mean, it could come up. Okay, let's move on. Overthrow the Oppressors, 1 command point. This is for the Bladed Cog. Use this stratagem before a Bladed Cog unit, excluding Genestealer units from your army, is selected to fight in the fight phase. Until the end of the phase, each time you roll an unmodified hit roll of 6 for an attack by a model in that unit, that model can immediately make an additional hit roll against the same target using the same weapon. These bonus attacks cannot themselves generate any further attacks. These attacks are instead generated on unmodified hit rolls of 5 or 6 when targeting Imperium units, or on unmodified rolls of 4, 5 or 6 when targeting Adeptus Mechanicus units. So, I mean, this is just a great stratagem if you're playing Bladed Cog. There's a lot of people playing Imperium out there, and AdMech is very good at the moment, so if you if you get a unit into combat and you feel like you want to hit a bit harder, I mean, this is a no-brainer to use, even if you're not facing Imperium. And it can also, like, if you have a small unit, it can make them hit a bit, like, what do you say, like above their waistline. I mean, they can hit harder than they seem to. So yeah, overall, great stratagem. Okay, By Demolitions, 1 command point, and this is for the Rusted Claw. Use this stratagem before a Rusted Claw biker unit from your army shoots in your shooting phase. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to hit and wound rolls made for attacks with that unit's grenade weapons. After this unit has resolved all of its shooting attacks this phase, it can immediately make a move, as if it were your movement phase, but cannot charge this turn. So this is really useful. I really like the stratagem. It's also quite fluffy, like bikes driving by and like bombing stuff. If you really want to bring the damage, you really must combine this stratagem with the extra explosive stratagems, so you can throw up to 10 grenades or up to 5 demolition charges. So, I mean, you can use demolition charges to blow up like big hard units, or like if your opponent has a screen of just garbage. I mean, throwing 10d6 blasting charges, hitting on freeze, wounding on freeze if the enemy units are toughness free, and they're blast. So I mean, if they're huge units, you get a lot of shots. So don't forget the blasting charges. They are useful too. Then there's the other part of this stratagem that allows you to move after shooting. This, I've been thinking about it, it's very useful. I mean, let's say you come in, you blow up you run forward, you blow up a unit on an objective, and then you can move on your unit on to that objective. I mean, that's just great. Or like moving to a table quarter for secondaries or so forth. You can also use this to like move block your opponent. Like if they have some big assault units like moving up, you can just like push up your bikes and just block them. So yeah, that's really good. One thing you have to consider is that you can't move after arriving from reserve. So if you use like lying in wait or perfect ambush or something to come out of reserve and then bomb something, you can't move. So you have to consider that. Also, if you use like that combination, it gets a bit command point heavy very fast. I mean, sure, you can do lying in wait to show up outside of 3 inches. You can use perfect ambush. To shoot. I don't. Can you use this in the? I think you can use this in the when you use perfect ambush to double shoot and throw 10 demo charges. But do you really need 10 demo charges? Okay. But overall, great strategy. Okay, let's move on. Vengeance for the Martyred. This is for the Pauper Princess. Use this stratagem when an enemy unit destroys a Pauper Princess character model from your army. For the remainder of the battle, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Pauper Princess models when they target the enemy unit that destroyed that character. Okay, so it's another way to get a +1 to hit, and this one is for both shooting and combat, so pretty good. The downside is you have to sacrifice a character to do this, and there are other ways to get +1 to hit. The Primus for combat, or the Jackal Alphas for shooting, and of course you can't stack any modifiers. So it's a bit that makes it a bit worse. I see it's more like if you're out skirmishing with like smaller units and you have like a character dying to one squad and you have another squad there that can hit it and you want +1 to hit. I said, okay, sure. But overall, it's okay, but not really super good. Okay. Monstrous Biohorrors. This is for the Twisted Helix. Use this stratagem at the end of the fight phase. Select a Twisted Helix Aberrant unit from your army. That unit can immediately fight again. In addition, until the end of the turn, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of enemy units while they are within 6 inches of that unit. So 3 command points. Yeah, that's very expensive. And fight twice is not quite what it used to be. Overall, aberrant units are expensive. I mean, the aberrants themselves are very expensive, and the Abominant, which is an aberrant unit, is also quite expensive. And the fact that you use it at the end of the fight phase means that your unit has to survive if they want to strike again. So if you charge into some like big combat unit, hit it once, it doesn't die, it will hit you back and probably kill a few of your models. And then if you fight again, you have less models available. So I mean, if you go into like big vehicles or something that can't really hit back as hard in the fight phase, that's great. But let's say, I mean, aberrants are pretty good at killing stuff. If they get into anything, they will probably smack it pretty hard. So you really want to use this to fight another unit. However, for that to happen, you had to declare that other unit when you charged. And as we all know in 9th edition, multi-charging is a bit risky. But, I mean, say if you have a small unit, like 5 aberrants, and they go into like something like a tank or like a couple of tanks or something, and you use this, it could, I mean, you, like similar with Overthrow the Oppressors, you can make them hit a bit like above their waistline, make them hit a bit harder, so get a bit more mileage out of fewer models. Alright, so overall, okay strategy. Alright, let's move on to the greater good stratagems. Let's see here. Changing book. Alright, first up we have Prepared Ambush for 1 command point. One command point, even. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select 1 Neophyte Hybrids units from your army that was set up on the battlefield using the Cult Ambush ability in this battle round. Until the end of the phase, or the end of that phase, autogun models in that unit are equipped. Autogun models in that unit. Autoguns that models in that unit are equipped with have a type characteristic of Assault 2. Yeah. So overall, I don't like this one. It's, I mean, it's some extra autogun shots, but I mean, overall, like your ballistic skill 4, your autoguns are strength 3, no AP. We're talking 6 to 20 extra autogun shots. I mean, in like a real game, they won't really make a difference. And the fact that you have to use it at the start of your shooting phase makes it even worse. And also that you have to have arrived from Cult Ambush on the same turn. I mean, if you could use this like in the middle of your shooting phase, like say, okay, I need some extra shots over there to kill that last guardsman or something, then fine, it could be good. But you can't do that, so yeah, let's just move on. Annihilating Advance. 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your charge phase. When a Goliath Rock Rider unit from your army finishes a charge move, select 1 enemy infantry unit within 1 inch of that unit and roll 1d6. On 2+, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So this is a useful stratagem, I think. If you got Rock Riders and you are up against like some tough enemy infantry like Custodians or something, or Marines that really hate mortal wounds, just charge into them and do some extra mortal wounds. I mean, sure, it's a 2+, so there's a slight risk that you won't do anything, but I think it's worth it. Because for those elite armies, like every mauler you kill is a big blow for them. I mean, you can also combine it with like if you got demolition charges on your truck. You charge in, do some mortal wounds, fight, and then if they kill you, like if it's a melee combat unit you charge into, you can blow up and do some more mortal wounds. So overall pretty good. And if you combine it with like some of the shooting of it, like if you got something like, for example, 5 intercessors or something holding an objective, this could really help make the difference to like really kill those units off an objective, so you can claim it for yourself. So yeah, overall good stratagem. Moving on. Integrated Voxnet, 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select one Jackal Alphas model from your army. Until the end of that phase, so replace that model's priority target sighted ability with the following. Vox Contact. At the start of your shooting phase, select one enemy unit within 36 inches and visible to this model. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a friendly cult model against that unit, whilst that model is within 18 inches of this model, add 1 to the hit roll. An enemy unit can only be selected as the target of this ability or the priority target sighted ability once per phase. So this is an okay stratagem. It's more like you could use it like turn 1 or turn 2 or something to just increase the Jackal Alpha's aura up to 18 inches and really like hit one target with your entire army. So I mean, if you got your army spread out a bit, you got your firepower spread out, and you really okay, I have to hit this vehicle or this unit really hard. It could be worth it, but 2 command points, it's a bit expensive. But overall, yeah, it's a good tool to have. Moving on, close range shootout, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when an Atalan Jackals unit from your army is chosen to shoot with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a pistol or assault weapon by a model in that unit against an enemy unit within 12 inches, you can re-roll the wound roll. Now this is a useful stratagem. I mean, of course you have to build for it. You need to actually have Jackals in your army, and preferably you want a larger unit. 10 to 15 of them. I would probably suggest 10, since if you go 11 plus, you suddenly get all the blast weapons in the world coming your way. So yeah, but I mean, this makes your shotguns and all the pistols, grenade launchers, I mean, bit more threatening. And when combined with Rusted Claw, you can just advance up and shoot a lot of shots. So overall, to clear screens, to clear like some units of objectives, this is really useful. It can also be used just to put some extra wounds on some tougher infantry units. I mean, most of the shots, they're strength 3, and so we don't really care about toughness 4, toughness 5. We're wounding on 5s anyway. So, and re-rolling. So, I mean, it's pretty good to plink a few wounds off here and there. I mean, to get like some more efficiency out of this, you could probably combine it with a Jackal Alphas to use the firepower of the Jackals and then some backline firepower to clear an enemy unit. But yeah, overall useful stratagem. Moving on. Violence Unleashed, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a hybrid Meta-morph unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of models in that unit. Yeah, it's an okay stratagem, pretty straightforward. This requires you to run hybrid Meta-morphs. At the moment, they're kinda expensive. I mean, Acolytes kinda do the same job for a cheaper price, and they have objectives secured, so not really the best unit. And to like get like really good efficiency out of it, you probably want a full 10-man unit. And I mean, the units, they're really squishy. So, but I mean, if you have Meta-morphs, you get them into combat, I would probably use it. Just get some more damage on the opponent. Unless, of course, you don't need extra damage. But most of the times you do. Okay, let's move on. Commanding Amplification, 1 command point. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select one Clamavus model from your army. The range of that model's Proclamator Hailer ability is increased by 3 inches. The same model cannot be selected by this stratagem more than once per battle. Okay, this is, it's an okay stratagem. I mean, you have to have a Clamavus, obviously. But this could, like, if you combine this with some, with like Twisted Helix, you could get some, like, longer advances on units, like in a more widespread area, well, making that aura 9 inches. Can also help, like, keep your canvas alive. Like, you can get him, if you're coming from the server, you can put him a bit further back and still give units the +1 to charge aura. So overall, it's useful. But I don't think I'll be using it anytime soon. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. The Gnarled Fist, 1 command point. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select one Abominant unit from your army. That unit's chosen ability affects 1 friendly cult aberrant units within 9 inches of that unit instead of within 6. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So this is this one. I don't really like it. I mean, it's a bit fluffy, but not really useful. I mean, first of all, you need a list that's built around an Abominant and Aberrants to actually be useful. And those models are, as I've said, very expensive at the moment for what they bring to the table. And usually the 6-inch aura from the Abominant is usually okay. It's usually enough to get, I mean, to do the work. I mean, if you run several units of Aberrants, this could be useful, but yeah. Also, if you run Bladed Cog, you can just use Overthrow the Oppressors instead and get, like, the same effect, an even better effect against Imperium units. So I would consider this it's quite bad. Let's move on. Raking Fire, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. Select one Achilles Ridge Runners unit from your army. Until the end of the turn, when resolving an attack made with a heavy stubber by a model in that unit, add 1 to the hit and wound rolls. So this is a really useful stratagem. I really like it. If your opponent has light infantry, you can just, like, really put the hurt on them to clear screens and clear small units of objectives and so forth. And also, like with the Jackal stratagem, you can, like, put some extra wounds on vehicles or heavy infantry units. So that, I mean, it could be that extra wound that makes the difference. So, but to really, like, make good use of this, I would really want to have a full unit of 3 Ridge Runners to get, like, some real effect out of this for it to be worth it. But yeah, overall, great stratagem. Moving on. The Cult Psyche, 1 command point. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select one Cult Magus unit from your army. That unit can attempt to manifest 1 additional psychic power in your psychic phase. When a psychic test is taken for that unit, add 1 to the total for each other friendly Cult Psyche unit within 3 inches, to a maximum of +3. You can only use the stratagem once per battle. So, another really useful stratagem. I think I almost use it in every game at the moment. It really, like, reduces the need for several psychers. Like, if you're running 2 Maguses, you could, like, think about dropping 1 and using this stratagem instead. Just have less characters on the board. Also denying your opponent some points for Assassinate or Abordovich if they choose to take that. And the other part, like you can get pluses to cast. I mean, it's useful, can make your powers more reliable, but then you really need to build for it, because to get like +1, okay, you have your Patriarch and Magus run next to each other, which is, I mean, not the worst thing in the world, but sometimes you want to spread your psychic powers out a bit. So yeah, but overall really useful, just to get that extra power from one psyker. Really good. Moving on. Slipping through the shadows. 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Sanctus unit is chosen to move. Yeah. Until the end of that phase, when that unit advances, add 6 to its move characteristic until the end of that phase, instead of making an advance roll. In addition, until the end of the turn, that unit can be chosen to charge with, even if they advance this turn. So, yep, really useful stratagem. A 6-inch auto advance, and you can charge after advancing. That's great. And if, of course, if you combine it, like if you're running Twisted Helix and with a canvas, that is a 9-inch guaranteed advance. So I mean, you're moving 15 inches, and you can charge. So that's great if you want to get around like enemy screens to enemy characters, or like get to objectives. Also, if you like equip your Sanctus with the Amulet of the Void Worm, so you can ignore Overwatch. You can just run him up the table from like cover, or like from out of line of sight, and charge him into like some aggressors or something to just deny Overwatch, and then after that your acolytes or other melee units can just walk on in without having to face a wall of flame or something. So really good. Also, like if you're running the Sniper Sanctus and like he's in a really bad position, I mean, you can just use this to move him to another position. So yeah, it's okay. Overall, useful strategy. Moving on. Genetic Lineage. 1 command point. Use this stratagem in the charge phase. Select one Acolyte Hybrids unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, that unit can be chosen to charge with, even if it advanced this turn. So yeah, really useful. I seem to use this at least once every game I'm playing right now. I mean, just be able to advance and charge is just awesome. You can make charges from further away, like hide your acolytes, transports, or like behind line of sight terrain. So really good. And of course, combine it with Twisted Helix and Clemus to make that advance even longer. And also, if you have a Psyker and you have the Psychic Stimulus power, you can use this to like have 2 squads of acolytes and send them forward in the same turn. Both can advance and charge. So that's really useful if you want to put the pressure on your opponent. Yeah, great strategy. Evasive Driving, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase. When a Goliath Rockrider or Goliath Truck unit from your army is chosen as the target of an attack made with a ranged weapon. Until the end of that phase, weapons with an armor penetration characteristic of -1 or -2 are treated as having an armor penetration characteristic of 0 when resolving an attack against that unit. So yeah, overall useful stratagem, cheap, 1 command point. It's great, and the good thing is it's used when you are targeted instead of like at start of the shooting phase. So if someone is shooting like really anti-tank weapons against you, like Melta or Plasma, Las Cannons, etc., you can just you don't have to use it. But if your opponent like puts like a lot of like auto cannons or assault cannons or just bolter fire, because it hurts more than you think, into your vehicles, you can just use this when the need comes. And yeah, this could force your opponent to put more fire than they expected to into your vehicle, because they can be surprisingly durable with this stratagem. And if the vehicles should survive, and you have a unit in there, the unit survives. And then you have an embarked unit that's in a good position to like move out, take objectives, charge your opponent in your turn. So it's really good. You can also make it like hold on to that objective, like if the vehicle survives, the unit inside survives, basically. And if the vehicle survives, it can also charge up then at your opponent next turn, like tie up units, or if you have the demo charges, the cash on demo charges on it, you can blow it up if it dies. So yeah, overall, great stratagem. Next one, Overcharge Weaponry, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a cult unit from your army is chosen to shoot with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving attack with an attack made with a clearance incinerator, heavy mine laser, or heavy seismic cannon by a model in that unit, add 1 to the wound roll. So yeah, this is a useful stratagem. Also cheap, 1 command point. To get like really good mileage out of this, you probably want to use it on a full 3-man unit of ridge runners with heavy mine lasers, to make them like even more reliable at anti-tank. Then just if you want to make them like as reliable as you can, like combine it with a Jackal Alphas for the +1 to hit, like so now you're hitting on freeze, and wounding like basically everything on 2s unless you use some stratagems. But and then like if you have a Primus, you can and has picked the target as a priority target, or as the whatever you call it, the Primus ability, you can reroll once to wound against it. So yeah, really good. I mean, you could even go Hive Cult to like reroll once to hit with the Warlord trait. So I mean, if you want like really reliable, accurate anti-tank firepower, then this is the way to do it. The only thing is like there's less. What I've seen is like not really like a lot of like really big targets on the table at the moment. So you kind of want to stack as many buffs, and I think that with strength 9 mine lasers, possibly re-rolling once to wound from the Primus, I mean that's probably enough for most cases. But overall, a good tool to have. Okay, so the last one, the Heart of the Creed, 1 command point. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select one cult Primus model from your army. When that model is set up on the battlefield for the first time, you can select 1 additional enemy unit for that model's meticulous planner ability. You can only use the stratagem once per battle. So yeah, overall, another cheap stratagem. Use it before the battle. I think it's useful. Maybe not something you want in all your games, but if you build for it, I really think it can be useful. And the thing is, you select those enemy units to reroll once to wound against when you set up your Primus, so you have a bit of flexibility going into every game. Like you see where your opponent moves and where the threats are. So yeah, really flexible. I mean, you can use this to hit 2 targets really hard in 1 turn. Preferably combine it with the Alien Majesty Warlord trait on the Primus when you used your Brood Coven stratagem, to get that aura up to 9 inches. So you can actually get more of your units within the aura, so you can hit units that are a bit spread out on the board. Or you can just hit 1 target per turn, like okay, I'll hit that target this turn, and next turn I'm gonna hit that target. But the thing is here, sure, it's good, but the Primus is quite squishy, so you need to keep him alive. So if you want to do that, preferably do it for like shooting or something, so the Primus is not up on the front line. Yeah, but overall, great strategy. Okay, so I think that was all of the stratagems. Yep, that's all the stratagems we have available at the moment. There's some really good tools that we have. And going through them all, I feel like I've picked up a thing or two that I haven't considered before. So yeah, this was a good exercise for me, and I hope that any of you out there learned something. As always, if you have any suggestions for when to use the stratagem, or if you think I'm completely wrong on something, just write them down in the comments. We'll keep the discussion going. And, share some good ideas to help each other to overthrow the oppressors. So yeah, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and have a good one. Bye.